Hello and welcome to this special broadcast on DD India. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, on the second day of his visit to Israel, is scheduled to hold delegation-level talks with his counterpart, Benjamin Netanyahu. I am Gautam Roy.
Day 2 of Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to Israel marks a decisive step forward in building India-Israel strategic partnership. So today's engagements, formal ones, will focus on deepening cooperation in technology, defense, agriculture, innovation, reaffirming a partnership rooted in trust and geared towards the future. I'm Tanvi Taneja.
And Prime Minister Modi earlier today paid homage at Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Museum. This solemn visit underscored India's respect for history, resilience and the shared values of humanity that bind the two nations together.
Yes, Prime Minister Narendra Modi has also met Israeli President Dr. Isaac Herzog, and he has been conferred yesterday with the Speaker of the Knesset medal in recognition of his exceptional contribution in strengthening strategic relations between India and Israel. So the next 2 hours or so, we'll connect with our correspondents, experts joining us on the show to understand the significance of this visit.
Well, Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited Yad Vashem, the World Holocaust Remembrance Center. He was accompanied by Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Yad Vashem chairperson Danny Dayan. Prime Minister Modi also visited the poignant Book of Names Hall, a powerful tribute preserving the memory of millions who perished during the Holocaust.
The Book of Names contains 4.8 million Holocaust victims' names. The leaders also participated in a memorial ceremony at the Hall of Remembrance. Prime Minister also laid a wreath and paid homage to victims of the Holocaust.
This visit marks Prime Minister Modi's second Yad Vashem stop, underscoring India-Israel solidarity against hatred. The memorial stands as a solemn reminder of the brutality of the past and our collective resolve to stand against injustice and create a better world.
Also today, a little while ago, we saw Prime Minister Narendra Modi meeting Israeli President Dr. Isaac Herzog as part of his state visit. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also signed a visitor's book at the museum. Dr. Isaac Herzog appreciated India's economic growth in his remarks. And Prime Minister Narendra Modi also thanked the Israeli president for the welcome.
And the PM, along with the Israeli president, also planted a tree in the grove of the righteous among the nations, symbolizing hope, remembrance, and enduring India-Israel friendship against hatred.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi engaged in key bilateral discussions with President Isaac Herzog at the presidential residence. Following his tribute at the Yad Vashem Holocaust Memorial, the leaders started with a cordial tete-a-tete, followed by an expanded bilateral meeting.
But the talks were centered on bolstering the India-Israel strategic partnership, covering bilateral relations, parliamentary cooperation, innovation, technology, defense, regional stability amid West Asia tensions, and advancing the proposed free trade agreement. Prime Minister Modi emphasized shared democratic values, mutual commitment to counter-terrorism, global good, and enduring friendship.
President Herzog warmly welcomed Prime Minister Modi, expressing delight at the deepening ties and Israel's appreciation for India's steadfast solidarity, while highlighting the historic significance of the visit in strengthening people-to-people ties and strategic bonds.
Let's now take you across live to DD India. Shubhendu Ghosh joining us from Jerusalem. Shubhendu, the day already part of solemnity as well as a bit officious with that meeting with President Herzog, but tell us what else is in store for today, because that is going to be the key part in terms of what we learn about the outcomes of this visit, won't it?
That's right, Gautam. Perhaps in many ways the most significant part of the day is sort of yet to begin. The bilateral engagement between Prime Minister Modi's delegation and the delegation of his Israeli counterpart, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Expectations are quite high. The kind of relationship, friendship that the two countries, the two leaders share. The two countries already enjoy strategic partnership. It's been 9 years since the ties were elevated to strategic partnership. We are on standby, in fact, for that bilateral engagement to begin. I am in the briefing room after the bilateral meeting ends. This is where the leaders are going to come and deliver their press statements. A lot of expectations in the area of innovation and technology partnership. Defense and security continues to be the cornerstone of this relationship between India and Israel, the manner in which it will be taken forward. We know we are already in conversation as far as joint production of technologies and defense equipments are concerned. An agreement in that context has already been signed early last year, if you recall that. And now we'll have to see what are going to be the tangible outcomes in these sectors. Agriculture, water management are also areas where Israeli innovations are very impactful, and India has been engaging with Israel on that front. People-to-people linkages. There is already a mechanism for organized workforce mobilization from India to Israel. But these countries have unique demographic situations. Israel, especially around the peak of the Gaza conflict, had a crunch of skilled and semi-skilled workers. And India, we know, is a global talent pool of workers with diverse skill levels. So there was this organized partnership between India and Israel to move the kind of skilled workers, particularly in caregiving, in construction sector that they were in need of. That could be expanded further. But we're learning from sources that this partnership in innovation and technology sharing is something that both leaders are very, very keen on. India just coming from the AI Impact Summit. And just yesterday, Prime Minister here in Jerusalem engaged with some Israeli tech leaders, startups, who are very keen, who had a very ready model, the manner in which they want to expand their work in India and make it a win-win partnership for both India and Israel. So all these issues in focus with this very most important meeting of the visit, if I may say, is yet to begin.
Okay, Shubhendu, tell us a bit more about the reception given to Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the Presidential Palace by Dr. Isaac Herzog. We heard the comments where Dr. Isaac Herzog was very appreciative of India's economic rise.
That's right. It's a very special visit as Prime Minister had at the Presidential Palace. He was warmly welcomed by President Isaac Herzog, and the two leaders have also met earlier. They share a very warm rapport. Israel, President, both have been very appreciative of the kind of developmental growth that India has made, the kind of support that India lends to Israel. The country really values it in global geopolitics, to stand shoulder to shoulder, to have convergences, particularly in domains of issues of terrorism, of solidarity. Those are elements which are deeply appreciated by the President. And we also saw the Prime Minister yesterday at Knesset speaking very passionately about how he values Prime Minister's presence at the Knesset when he became the first Prime Minister to deliver the address. And the visit at the Presidential Palace, Tanvi, was a very cordial one, very friendly one. Both leaders exchanged their thoughts on the kind of development agenda that they're going ahead with their respective countries and the areas of convergence. That's the key word, really. But there's always been comfort in the relations between India and Israel with deeper convergence. And what are the sectors which are ready to be able to take that forward? And in that, we also see perhaps a certain roadmap emerging as to the manner in which in the coming decade, the past decade of strategic partnership between India and Israel, a lot of technology sharing. We are on the cusp of joint production. A lot of technology is now. The next decade is full of potential, is what the leaders and stakeholders say. We just on standby to learn what is that roadmap going to be. What are the areas which will have a specific focus? And those were also the elements that the conversation that President and Prime Minister had a short while earlier today.
Right, Shubhendu, also tell us about the address that Prime Minister Modi delivered at the Knesset yesterday and the honor that he got, how was this entire experience received really by the people there, not just in the Knesset, the members there, but the Israeli people?
Gautam, if I can just share a context of the warmth and friendship between India and Israel and the people before I specifically come to your question. Wherever we go, when people ask us where you're from and we say India, there's been a consistent experience, whether we talk about engagement with school children or with diplomats and leaders and tech leaders and corporate. There's such great degree of bonhomie between people of India and Israel, something that comes so naturally to them. So many of them have, about 85,000 of them had Indian roots. They emigrated to Israel. So that is really the foundation of the people-to-people ties. And in such a context, when a leader of the country, Prime Minister Modi in this case, comes to Israel, there's been great excitement around it. People, before he arrived, were curious, when is he coming? How long will he stay? What is the plan? So people on the streets have been curious about what this relationship entails and what will Prime Minister Modi bring in terms of his ideas for the speech. And after the speech, we saw how historic it was. There was chanting of Modi, Modi. That is, we've seen those images in sort of domestic political programs, perhaps, but there were no Indian politicians as such in the Knesset. There were parliamentarians of a foreign country, but they chanted Prime Minister's name in a manner that they have admiration for him, the manner in which Prime Minister could, in a very, very sensitive way, touch upon the chords that connect India and Israel. Even in doing so, as a statesman, keeping in view India's own strategic autonomy, he also spoke about Palestine, how India has always been supportive of peaceful resolution of the negotiations. So all these elements bring about a great deal of respect for the leader.
Also, Shubhendu, if we could mention,
yeah.
Yes, also Shubhendu, I was saying if you could mention the respect and admiration Prime Minister Narendra Modi holds even in the opposition circles of the Knesset. Yes, we heard that the opposition members boycotted the address of Benjamin Netanyahu, but were very much inside the chambers to listen to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And in fact, Yair Lapid also on social media time and again has said that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is a friend of Israel in tough times.
That's right, Tanvi. That's very rightly put. In fact, there's very interesting visuals where we saw a certain coming together of sort of domestic politics and international engagement. There may be differences between the government and the opposition in Israel, and I mean, all countries have that in a political context. But when it comes to acknowledging the presence of a leader who represents 140 billion from a powerful country, from a powerful partner, supportive partner, friendly country like India, then you really come together. So that kind of bipartisan support that Prime Minister enjoys across different countries, but here in Israel also, even while in domestic context, Prime Minister Netanyahu may be facing certain challenges from the opposition, but they all came together to listen to the Prime Minister's address. And they also spoke very clearly that Prime Minister is a friend of Israel, irrespective of who's in power. So that speaks volumes about statesman-like stature that Prime Minister had in global geopolitics here in Israel, but it also talks about the stature of India. The kind of friendship, the kind of partnership that India offers to Israel, Israel respects that, and irrespective of the political motivations of the domestic politicians, all of them gathered. And we saw the manner in which there was standing ovation, the Knesset medal that was accorded to Prime Minister, all of it speaking volumes about the stature, the respect that Prime Minister enjoys, that
Certainly.
India enjoys in Israel's views.
Yes, certainly, Shubhendu. Okay, thanks a lot for joining us for the moment from Jerusalem there. Shubhendu Ghosh telling us about what lies in store for the rest of the day today, day 2 of Prime Minister Modi's visit, and also the highlights of day 1 as well, where the PM addressed the Israeli parliament, the Knesset. Now, earlier, if we go back to what happened on Wednesday in a landmark diplomatic moment, Prime Minister Modi addressed Israel's parliament, the Knesset, in Jerusalem, becoming the first Indian Prime Minister to do so.
Yes, he received a standing ovation from lawmakers, as Shubhendu was telling us, expressing solidarity with Israel over the October 7th terror attacks. And Prime Minister Modi was conferred with the Speaker of the Knesset medal, the highest parliamentary honour. A report.
In a historic moment, Prime Minister Narendra Modi on Wednesday addressed Israel's parliament during his two-day state visit, becoming the first Indian Prime Minister to do so. Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Knesset Speaker Amir Ohana welcomed him with full ceremonial honours. The Prime Minister received a rousing reception, loud applause and a standing ovation. In his address, Prime Minister Narendra Modi condoled the victims of the October 7, 2023 Hamas attack.
I also carry with me the deepest condolences of the people of India for every life lost and for every family whose world was shattered in the barbaric terrorist attack by Hamas on October 7. We feel your pain. We share your grief. India stands with Israel firmly, with full conviction in this moment and beyond. No cause can justify the murder of civilians. Nothing can justify terrorism. India has also endured the pain of terrorism for a long time.
He called for coordinated global action against terrorism, declaring it a borderless threat that demands united international resolve.
Terrorism aims to destabilize societies, to block development, and to erode trust. Countering terrorism requires sustained and coordinated global action because terror anywhere threatens peace everywhere. That is why India supports all efforts that contribute to durable peace and regional stability.
He expressed strong support for the Gaza Peace Initiative, calling it a pathway towards just and a lasting peace in the region. Prime Minister Narendra Modi also underscored robust India-Israel cooperation across defense, technology, agriculture, water management, cybersecurity, and counter-terrorism, a partnership rooted in trust and shared democratic values. Following his address, the Knesset conferred upon him the Speaker of the Knesset medal. This marks the first time the medal has been awarded, making him the inaugural recipient of the highest honor of the Knesset. The medal has been conferred in recognition of Prime Minister's exceptional contribution through his personal leadership to strengthen strategic relations between India and Israel. Notably, in 2018, he was also awarded the Grand Collar of the State of Palestine, making him one of the rare global leaders honored by both Israel and Palestine. Bureau Report, DD India.
And we are now joined by our esteemed guests. We have with us Baswati Mukherjee, former senior Indian diplomat. We also have with us Lieutenant General Sanjay Kulkarni, former Director General Infantry. Thank you very much, everyone, for being with us on DD India News Hour. Coming to you first, Ms. Baswati, yesterday's engagements, Prime Minister Narendra Modi's address to the Knesset. How do you assess these engagements to take forward the India-Israel strategic partnership?
It was an iconic and inspiring address and a great honor to India that our Prime Minister should have been requested to join a bipartisan gathering of the Israeli politicians cutting across the political divide. They were unanimous in welcoming Prime Minister Modi and listening to him as he spoke so eloquently about the dangers that terrorism poses, particularly to a democratic polity, a terrorism so familiar to India because we too live in a dangerous neighborhood like Israel, and the full sympathy and extended by Prime Minister on behalf of the people of India to the Israeli people for all that had happened during that horrific attack on unarmed civilians. Quite similar, frankly, to what had happened to us, which had led to Op Sindoor. More than that, it was particularly touching that he was awarded with the highest honor. It was wonderful to see politicians, even those who are opposed to the present Prime Minister of Israel, welcoming our Prime Minister and making it clear that if there is one thing which unites all of Israel, that is the India-Israeli strategic partnership and what India brings to Israel and what Israel brings to India. Because in India too, there is complete agreement that if there's one country that has stood by us in our most difficult moments, that is certainly Israel and its people and its government.
General Kulkarni, if I could come to you, just talk about the kind of kindredness that India and Israel have where, suffering at the hands of terrorism is concerned, because that then takes us into the domain of countering terrorism and also a complementarity in defense capabilities where I believe a lot is expected when the two prime ministers engage formally today in terms of the outcomes that might be delivered.
Definitely, don't deny the fact, because India believes in zero tolerance for terrorism. Israel has also been a victim of terrorism. India always and every time is a victim of terrorism. So there is complete agreement and understanding that yes, terror has to be fought together at not just the domestic level, but also at the international level. And therefore, the importance of India and Israel getting together. You're absolutely right. The kind of defense cooperation that takes place, whether it be in space, whether it be in cyber, whether it be in communication, whether it be in radars, whether it be in ammunition, precision ammunition, anything and everything, all which ensures that terrorism must be eliminated. And there is no scope for terrorism anywhere in the world, and that India stands for it. And I think Israel understands, and India understands Israel's position on terror. We all know what happened, like what Dr. Mukherjee rightly said. Everybody knows what's happened in the 7th. We've been knowing what's been happening since 1948 in Israel. It continues 67, 73, and thereafter all along. So Israel has been a victim, and Israel also understands that India is a victim of terrorism the world over. And our stand, we are not against anybody in the world. We are against terror. And we make that very clear. We have zero tolerance for terrorism. Having said that, I think our relationship again with Israel, as was rightly brought out, was 2,000 years. We have this Teen Murti Haifa shock. Now, this Teen Murti Haifa shock is nothing but a battle which was fought on the 23rd of September, 1918. And those three lancers that stand there are the ones from Jodhpur, Mysore, Hyderabad, representative of those who fought the Battle of Haifa against the Ottoman Empire. So that shows, and we celebrated the 200 years after which we named it, and how both the leaders came there. And after 2017, when the first Prime Minister's visit to Israel, and in 2018, this Teen Murti Chowk was named as Teen Murti Haifa Chowk in commemoration of the participation of Indian troops in the Battle of Haifa on the 23rd of September, 1918. So you see the kind of relationship that exists between India and Israel, and the condemnation of what happened at Pahalgam by Mr. Netanyahu at the very outset. There had been no ifs and buts when it came to terror. And both the countries stand together to fight terror. And it is in that context that I see the relationship between India and Israel go to a level which is unbelievable. And there is a requirement also. We must have that close relationship, because for innovation, you see, or in matters of agriculture, disaster management, communication, cyber, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, all of which innovations in which Israel is far, far ahead. all of it, we start to benefit. We saw what happened in Kargil. The precision ammunition in Kargil came from Israel to us. At a time when we were having those drop bombs, and we had the precision, and it turned everything. You saw what Pakistan did on Kargil Heights, again, as part of terror. Each one of them wanting to say their bodies weren't there. So we know what exactly has happened at Kargil. In that context, I find India and Israel together, the trust that they have on each other, the understanding that there is. You see the number of tourists that come from Israel to India, almost about 80,000 plus tourists, and most of them are ex-soldiers because, the kind of, everyone over there is a soldier, and most of them come to India, stay for such a long time. More than 10,000 Indians are visiting Israel every year. There's so many 1,500 odd, we have these people doing doctorate in Israel. So there is a lot that is in common with Israel and India, and especially when it comes to terror. By all means, India and Israel stand together, because both countries understand zero tolerance for terrorism, and we need an international effort.
Ms. Mukherjee, let me ask you, does that sentiment and the resolve against terror, to combat it, to fight it, zero tolerance, does that extend to those who also sponsor acts of terror?
Yeah, definitely. And see what happens.
I was asking Ms. Mukherjee. Sorry, General Kulkarni.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I thought it was
I just wanted to ask you, does the sentiment and the resolve against terrorism extend to those who sponsor terrorism as well?
Well, that's an oxymoron, if I may say so, because those who sponsor terror, they are actually those who believe that it's a potent weapon, particularly to destroy a democratic policy. Certainly in our neighborhood, terrorism has been used as an instrument to make democratic models more difficult to function. For instance, if you have to go through 7 layers of security to enter the Indian Parliament, it's kind of a little difficult to even think of visiting the Indian Parliament. So the sponsorship of terror as an instrument of state is something that Israel has suffered from terribly, and India has suffered from 1947, as General Kulkarni correctly pointed out. Therefore, for the Israelis and for the Indians, we believe that counter-terrorism institutions are of great importance, and intelligence sharing is very important. And there are lobbies that try to show that if you come down too heavily on terror, you're not really a democratic policy. That is not true at all. You have to destroy the instruments of terrorism in order to ensure that you have a full and functional democracy. There is no other way for a democracy to continue to prosper unless you can control those who are trying at every level to sow doubt into the institutions of state that exist to represent the wishes of the people. In this particular case, for instance, the attack of Hamas on Israel, which our Prime Minister has condemned, was an attempt to demonstrate that Israel's gradual opening up. For instance, the G20 in Delhi, we had talked about a Middle East corridor, which would also go through Israel. There was a gradual process of normalization of relations between Israel and major countries in the Middle East. What this attack did was a complete setback to those efforts. Similarly, in India, where we were trying to completely normalize Jammu and Kashmir, bring back tourism, etc., the heinous terror attack ensured that at least for a while, there was terror, there was fear of going to J&K. The process of normalization received a minor setback, but things came back to normal and are now almost back to normal. So there again, it's a shared history between Israel and India that it is important to make it clear that those who sponsor terrorism will not be spared. And it's for that to succeed, the international community has to be empathic, has to understand. For instance, when we talk of Israel, Israel is so grateful that when the Mumbai terrorist attack happened, it was an Indian nanny who saved those 2 kids that India is a country that through millennia has never seen anti-Semitism. That is something which the Israelis feel very strongly about. Whenever I meet an Israeli diplomat or an eminent person, they always say that, and that's true. India is a beacon for all religions. Whereas I remember that when I served in France as ambassador, there were regular terrorist attacks every Friday in the synagogue near my house. And I used to ask the French police, they said, Madam, unfortunately, there are still some anti-Semitics in France, so many years after World War II. So these are things which show how special India is and how special is the relationship between India and Israel. Sorry for my long answer, Gautam, to your short question.
Okay.
Not important.
Yes. Lieutenant General Kulkarni, yes, as the two bilateral delegations will meet in just some time from now, what sort of practical form of cooperation could we see in terms of intelligence sharing, defense collaboration, joint counter-terrorist strategies to further commit to this combating terrorism commitment from both sides?
Tanvi, for a long time, India and Israel have been sharing information. They've been even sort of collaborating on space since 2003. India has been with Israel on various forums, information sharing. Even if you look at the kind of precision ammunition manufacturing between the two, the kind of understanding with BEL and the Israeli industries, and also of the DRDO with Israeli industries. So much has been happening in all in terms. Space is one, cyber is yet another. And now with artificial intelligence coming in, you find the kind of drones we have, the kind of Terrans, the UAVs that we have, all with a view to ensure that we must have an excellent collaboration and cooperation with the countries whom we can trust. Trust is very important. And when it comes to information sharing, it's very, very important. The combined thing, whether it is from space or whether it is cyber, if the information is shared as to, yes, this is where the activities are taking place, well, countermeasures can be taken to ensure that these kind of things don't happen. It's that in that context they see, because on a long, long time, relationships have been taking place, collaborations have been there, cooperation have been there, transfer of technology has been happening, absorption of technology has been happening. Since Israel itself suffers from terrorism, they are willing to share the kind of equipment that they are doing. We've seen the kind of equipment Israel has used even during the Gaza conflict, which was on till the ceasefire taken place. So there's so much happening. And I think there is even the very talk of hexagon of alliances. So there's nothing as yet concrete. You find a whole lot of panic having set in Pakistan. Pakistan, knowing fully well, everybody knows that Pakistan uses terrorism as an instrument of state policy. It's a hub of terror. Everybody in the world understands. And see the panic. Nothing has come out. Nobody has yet knows who the hexagon comprises of, what is it would take a shape of, nothing. But the panic and the kind of passing of it in the Senate, the resolution against the Ummah, all this is indicated that panic has already set in Pakistan. And Pakistan feels that the relationship of India with Israel would probably be against them, and their own relationship which they have taken it up with Saudi Arabia, taken it up with Turkey. You find all these kind of complications, and I'm sure all the countries in the world understand one thing, that terror is terror. There's no good terror, there's no bad terror. Terror is terror, and it must be addressed unitedly, and everybody in the world must stand united against terror, irrespective. Terror has no religion, terror has no color, terror has no region. Terror has only one. If it's terror, it creates panic, it prevents development, and it divides the society. And therefore, to ensure that we all live in an environment of peace, it's very essential that we must all stand together against terror. We cannot have what Musharraf in Pakistan would say, good Taliban and bad Taliban and all that kind of this thing, and they are themselves now suffering. So you see all this kind of a thing. We have an excellent relationship now with Afghanistan. And now the same, this thing they find now fighting Afghanistan, Pakistan wanting to fight with Afghanistan. So you find that terror has to be fought on one front, and that there are no friends, there's no bad terror, there's no good terror, it's terror. And all of us stand united fighting against terror. In that context, a lot that can be shared with India and Israel with the view of in surveillance, in the kind of sharing of information, in questions of satellites, cyber, space, all of it. And information sharing, because if you know and information in time saves lives. You can ensure that incident does not take place if sharing of information is there, which I'm sure that is what is very, very important, because there are 5 eyes here and there are so many things everywhere in the world. So information sharing is very important to fight terror. And in that context, I think India and Israel stand together, and hopefully the innovation there, the technology there, the R&D over here, the absorption over here, the ability for soft skills, the hard skills, all of it that exists within India and with Israel will ensure that the world hopefully should get eradicated of terror, and therefore creating ambience of peace and security across the world.
We've already seen, General Kulkarni, what happens when state-sponsored terror leads to Pahalgam, and Pahalgam leads to Operation Sindoor. We've already heard Prime Minister Modi announce that there will be a mission Sudarshan Chakra that will be mounted by 2035. And Ms. Mukherjee, there do you think the kind of capabilities that Israel has, both defensive as well as offensive, can come in pretty handy? And dare I say that India too has certain capabilities that Israel could use in its own defense?
Absolutely. In fact, transfer of technology is something that Israel has never been averse to as far as India is concerned. There is a lot of good stuff that we intend to get from Israel to prepare ourselves, because there is bound to be, from the Pakistani side, a follow-up terrorist attack. They don't seem to have learned anything, and the Field Marshal keeps giving the wrong impression that they have won the war. Even though Trump in his address yesterday first gave the impression that the Pakistani Prime Minister was afraid that he was going to be killed in Sindoor. Turned out it was a slip of his tongue. He meant the number of Pakistanis who would be killed by India. So we need this kind of defense equipment from Israel. And there are some areas in which Israel is interested to cooperate with India, because they would need some equipment from us. There are some high-level talks going on, I understand, in that respect. And more than that, the Israelis have some very interesting drone technology, which we are getting into in a big way, because the whole nature of warfare has changed. So it's not just the S-400s. We need all kinds of different drones. And we also need to establish a robust air defense system, because clearly what we have is good, but since the main sponsor of terrorism, our dear and beloved neighbor, Pakistan, is arming itself to the teeth, which again is surprising, since everyone says they are a bankrupt nation. Where's the money coming from? But they are arming themselves to the teeth. So we have to therefore increase our defense spending and have an even more robust, even more secure system, air defense system, so as to make sure that the next time it happens, it will not just be Op Sindoor. We won't close it down at the appeal of the Pakistani DGMO. We will carry it on until it comes to a logical end. And the logical end would be destroying Pakistan's terror infrastructure for decades to come. That, in my mind, would be a more satisfactory outcome if there is a follow-up to Op Sindoor or whatever the name is given. And in that respect, Israel is with us, and Israel has helped us in the past, will continue to do so. This visit coming so many years later, I didn't realize till I saw it on your screen that it's the second visit of Prime Minister Modi after 2017. That's a long time. And actually, it's a very well-timed visit, because it demonstrates that India stands with Israel in its hostile neighborhood. At the same time, India is also committed to help the Palestinian people to get a fair deal, so that both sides can live in peace. That was again made very clear. We did a very good balancing act. And when we say that in Israel, the Israelis listen to us, because we say it with love and affection and with sympathy for their predicament. We don't come there to hector and lecture them. We say it as family talks to each other. That's how India and Israel talk to each other, like family.
Okay. Lieutenant General Kulkarni, we have spoken about how the two sides are keen on collaborating on this defense technology equipment. Yes, India is not just looking this time on buying weapons, but co-producing also of these advanced defense technologies. How hopeful are you that Israel would be willing to share its part of its Iron Dome and Iron Beam technologies? And from Israel's point of view, India would be willing to share its low-cost drone technology with Israel?
Definitely, Tanvi. In a big way, some of it has already started. We already are in collaboration. The BEL is in collaboration. The DRDO is doing it. We have the Tech Mahindra, we have the Adanis, we have the Tata Advance, the Bharat Forge, all of them into it. And at the same time, Iron Dome has been a tested thing, in which we've seen that 90% of the missiles and drones being fired at Israel were targeted and were neutralized. So 90% of it. Of course, Israel is a small state. India is a huge country. And therefore, the Sudarshan Chakra that we are looking at it, a lot can be learned from Iron Dome, and a lot we now need to collaborate and ensure, because the Israel thing was only to ensuring up to 70 kilometers. Of course, right now the collaboration is almost up to 150 kilometers and beyond. Now we have S-400, we have Akash T, we have quite a few of our own small weapon systems, own missiles, own
drones also, but yes.
Yeah, laser.
Anti-drones as well.
Yes.
Cut down on the cost, because otherwise most of these missiles, anti-drone measures would cost heavily on it. But then if it is cutting down on the cost by laser, you find a lot of that technology will be absorbed. So there is a lot that Israel can contribute to India. There's a lot that India now needs to do on its own. Like in the Operation Sindhu we saw, Akash T was our creation. And it is Akash T which ensured the swarm of drones and missiles coming from Pakistan onto us were totally neutralized. So there has to be, this detection, acquisition, neutralization of all these missiles, drones. We really need to do it, and that is why the Prime Minister said that by 2035, the entire Sudarshan architecture would be in place. Obviously, for a country as huge as India, it would take time, lots of development to be take place, lots of measures, lots of tiers need to be developed to ensure what needs to be, detected first, what needs to be acquired, what needs to be neutralized, when, where, by whom. So it's and Israel is already an ongoing process which it has done. Otherwise, Israel would have been in real trouble with the kind of missiles being fired at them by Iran in the 12-day war and even before that. So in that context, I think there's so much to learn, and we have the Golden Dome again, Golden Dome coming up of the United States subsequently. We have the Iron Dome over here, the laser technology, our Sudarshan Chakra. I think there's a lot to learn from each other, a lot to contribute. Of course, we need to have our own. The scale of India would be massive, absolutely massive. It's not, because Israel obviously is a small state, and in that context, there's huge strength with the Iron Dome neutralizing 90%, but we need almost 100%. We cannot even afford to have anything passing through it, because the destruction cost will be huge. So it is in that context, so much to learn from. And I think a lot of it is already in the pipeline. A lot would be done. Adoption of technology, manufacturing in India, in collaboration. It is not competing with each other, but complementing each other between India and Israel. That would lay the foundation for a long-term. We have a 10-year vision statement for defense and this thing. So that vision statement, which has been signed recently and go up to 2032, again is indicated that yes, there's a lot that is happening. A lot will continue to happen. The trust will ensure transfer of technology with no bars whatsoever, and that itself should be fair enough to be able to use our soft skills, to be able to use our hard skills, to ensure the hard skills by the time we have our own architecture of Sudarshan Chakra.
Okay. Ms. Mukherjee, let's move on from the issue of defense and security and talk about, commerce, trade, investment, because that's an area where India and Israel perhaps need to refocus attention following what's been happening. You spoke about the timing of the visit as well, how well timed it is, because right now the Gaza conflict has been cooled. There's a peace process that is on, and it needs to be taken forward, of course. But at the same time, there was trade that had reached a certain level between India and Israel, which came down, when we look at just the last financial year. investments as well need to be picked up. There's a pact already, but now we're talking about an FTA with Israel. Do you think the leaders will ensure that this happens in a time-bound manner when they meet today?
Absolutely. India remains, if I'm not mistaken, Israel's second largest trading partner in this region in Asia. Let's not forget that what happened in this conflict in Gaza has taken a toll on the Israeli economy too. It's not just the Gaza Strip which has been devastated. It has also set back some amount of economic activity within Israel, which is now going to pick up as the peace process consolidates. We do intend to look at the FTA very seriously. We do intend to sign the FTA because there is absolutely no reason why, for so many years, we did not have a free trade agreement with Israel. Now that we have one, which is coming up with the EU, the one with UK is a done deal. The one with Australia is almost done. The only one which is still being looked at is because of the confusion regarding tariffs is one with the US. So there is absolutely no reason why we should not do that. We have a high-powered delegation which is looking into it. It's a win-win situation because there are many products in Israel which we need for our, especially for our indigenous defense production, and which I won't elaborate on national television, but also a whole lot of other stuff. And Israelis would like to trade much more with us because we are a huge country. We are a very friendly country. There are a lot of things they need. The manner in which Israel, since it came into inception of the Holocaust, has transformed its land. If you look at the photographs which I'm looking at, it looks so green and fertile. When the first consignment of Israelis went to the new land,